What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Formula America podcast. We're your hosts, Kurt and Dylan, and this is our first podcast in feels like weeks. It's our first podcast of 2025, and it's kind of technically our first podcast of our third season in Formula One.
It is third season officially, I think. As it is official that Lewis Hamilton is wearing red now, it is our third season.
It is. You know what? That makes us... Let me get a count. I think that makes us more experienced than 7 of the drivers on the grid.
That's probably fair. You know what
works.
Really turned it on my head? You know Carlos Sainz is now the 4th oldest driver on the grid?
Yeah, that's wild.
Isn't that wild?
I wouldn't think that. But I mean, hell, we got 6 rookies this year, and they're all under, I think Liam Lawson's the oldest one. He's 22. And
23.
So there's
He's
so
23,
much,
and then Jack Doan is 22.
There's so much youth and vigor. Lewis Hamilton just had his birthday. Actually, you know, it's funny. Lewis Hamilton shares a birthday with both mine and your wife because they both also had the same birthday. So
I didn't know your wife had the same birthday as mine. I would have texted her.
Yep. So Lewis just turned 40.
Nice. Congrats, Lewis. You're old. Still has more hair than me, though.
I don't know if that's that's not genetics, that's more money. So
right,
you look back at the old pictures of Lewis from like 10 years ago, you're like, bro, that's not the same hairline, my guy.
No, it is not. Funny how that happens.
Yeah, right. Oh man. But so speaking of kind of the young guys on the grid, that's what we're here for today. We're going to talk about the rookies, kind of do a rookie roundup and go over, you know, where they came from, just kind of the stats that we should know about these guys, and then maybe give our take on who we think is going to perform the best.
Our professional third season experienced take.
Yeah. We've got a lot of weight behind our name at this point. So if you remember last year, we did that, or 2 years ago, because we didn't have rookies last year. We did that with Nick DeVries, Logan Sargent, and Oscar Piastri, and we're, I think, 100% correct on that one.
Yeah, I believe we said it was Piastri's to lose. DeVries is kind of a wild card, and Logan's not going to do anything. And, well, last man standing.
Last man standing. To be fair, Logan did last. Yeah. Logan lasted a lot longer than DeVries, which is strange. But
he should have probably lasted about as long as DeVries. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. He brought great entertainment.
Logan did. He brought great entertainment, and he cost a lot of money. Whole hell of a lot of money.
Almost as much as the Williams team racked up this year or last year.
Williams, we're looking at the destructors for the past couple years, I think on our last podcast, and Williams has just been getting kicked in the nuts for about 3 years now when it comes to financial losses.
I love that interview with James Vowles where he's like, I told them to break everything, right? This season, break it all. We have plenty, you know, we're learning, break everything. It's like, man, you should have probably put like an asterisk next to everything because
he was still a new team principal, so he's learning just as they are too. So he'll watch his tongue a little bit next time.
But yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about these rookies. We got 5.5 if we're keeping Liam. I think Liam needs to be kept on there. He's only got,
I think so,
10 races.
No, he's got 11 total.
11,
which is essentially half of a season if you think about it.
5.5
but it was spread over 2 seasons. But he's still a rookie.
Yeah. I say let's start with Kimi Antonelli.
Kimi Antonelli, replacing Lewis Hamilton over at Mercedes, the youngest, I believe.
He's 18.
He's the youngest of all the rookies.
And I believe I saw a stat that if he wins in the first 4 months, he'll beat Max Verstappen's record for youngest driver ever to win. He's the only one that has a chance.
Yeah. We'll see. That team and that car has been so hit or miss. I honestly don't know where to put them.
I don't either.
And so
because they might have just developed for this year and come out of the gates absolutely on fire. I mean, we saw freaking McLaren go from the back of the pack to the literal front of the pack in a couple of races. So I'm not counting them out, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. And you know what? I think out of all of them, if anybody has a chance, it's probably going to be him because, you know, there's a good chance that could be a fast car. He's being pegged kind of as the next Max Verstappen. I think a large part of why Toto was pushing so hard for him was because of Toto missing out on Max back in the day, not wanting to put him in the car because he had Rosberg and Hamilton at the time. and then offering him, I think they offered him potentially an F2 seat, and Red Bull was like, we'll put you in F1.
Yeah.
And so he jumped ship. And I think Toto is kind of kicking himself for that one. So now he's hoping that Kimi's going to be the next one. But I mean, he looks fast. He came out and, his first time in the car, it lasted 10 minutes before he put it in the wall. But those are quick 10
That's
minutes.
longer than I lasted my first
Monza.
time.
I've never lasted that long. I don't know what you're talking about. but yeah, he was pretty quick. And I think that's part of it. Which is probably might be his issue, is he's got so much pressure. I think he feels like he has to be quick. And so I think if he's going to have an Achilles heel, it's going to be the fact that maybe he comes out a little too hot, and it might take him a little bit to learn how much to dial it back.
Diamonds are made under pressure, bro.
That's true.
And he's Italian. It is in his blood. All right. Even if he is driving a German car, but that's neither here nor there either. He's the first Italian since Antonio Giovinazzi as well.
That's not a very high benchmark right there, though.
No, but it's gotta love having an Italian on the grid. There's something special about it.
There is, man. The Italians. We see it anytime Ferrari goes to Monza or Imola.
It's the best thing ever. I mean, the Tifosi,
so cool.
The faithful. It is what it's. Everyone's a Ferrari fan when they win.
Yep.
So
all right, so. Let's see. So that's Kimi over there. Who we got next?
We got Jack Dohan.
Jack Dohan. He is the second oldest of all of the rookies.
22.
Yeah. And what's interesting about him, he hasn't had the worst career, but he also hasn't really driven competitively. Like, he sat out for 2024. So it's kind of been a little bit. And other than
there's a lot of speculation about how long his contract's for as well.
So he also has a lot of pressure on his shoulders, I think, because people are already saying like he might not even have a full year contract.
I'm not even hearing
Alpine
half.
is already
I'm hearing like 5. Yeah, 5 races.
And as a rookie coming into the sport, could you imagine the pressure of being like, I have to perform in 5 races or whatever it is?
And he's not had like Bierman and Antonelli where he's got a few races under his belt because of being a reserve driver or whatever. He's never been in a Grand Prix race.
No, he did the last race.
He did. You're totally right. That's my fault.
Yep.
Yes, I forgot he did the very last one because they kicked out Ocon of the car. So he's done one.
He did the last race. I think he finished P15. Didn't crash, which was good. But, man, that's a ton of pressure, and especially when the team's already throwing around Colapinto's name. It's almost like Checo or Danny Ricciardo last year, where it's like, oh, you better perform or you're out. And we saw how both of those guys kind of folded. I couldn't imagine being a rookie and having to step up into a car that's not really the best. It started to get better at the end of the
horsepower
season.
more than your F2 car.
Yeah. So it's that's a ton of pressure, man. I wish him the best. I think that I don't know, just having for some reason, maybe it's my affinity for Ricciardo. I think having an Aussie on the grid, even though Oscar Piastri's there.
He's a Kiwi. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Liam Lawson. You're right. I'm all over the place today. It's been too
American.
long.
They're all the same. It has been too long.
Yes, you're right. Liam Lawson is the Aussie, or Liam Lawson is the Kiwi. Piastri's the Aussie. My Aussie friend's gonna, if he listens to this, I'm totally getting a text from him.
It's funny. Australia is our second biggest market for this podcast.
I'm sorry, guys. We love y'all. Also, the thing about Jack is his dad is a MotoGP legend.
I did not know that until recently.
Yeah. So, and he raced for the Red Bull Junior team at a certain point throughout his career as well. So, definitely kind of interesting. But yeah, he never did anything crazy in F2. And it's funny, like looking at the current grid, almost everyone that's still on it and relevant was an F2 champion.
Yeah.
So,
another fun fact I learned about Jack Doohan was that Michael Schumacher gave him his first kart back in the day, his first go-kart.
Really?
Yep. Him and his dad were friends. Or Michael and Jack's dad were friends.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. All right, should we move on to Ollie?
Ollie Behrman, yes sir. The
20 years old,
rookies.
British, has had quite a splash, and honestly, probably has the least amount of pressure, I would think, going into this season.
Yeah, Ollie, And Ollie came in, he just seems cool as a cucumber, man.
Yep.
He came in with all that pressure was it Jeddah when he replaced Carlos Sainz?
Yep.
And which is not an easy track. And he came in, qualified well, raced phenomenally.
Scored points.
For a race where all you have to do is just not crash the car and it's considered a win. And he scored points and stayed ahead of a lot of people in the championship.
Yeah. He gave Checo a run trying to pass him.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like Ollie. I think Ollie, especially the way Haas is looking these days, Haas is looking good.
They're a midfield team.
I think Ollie might be a pretty good candidate for best of the rookies. You know, what's funny or interesting is Haas now has the tallest driver lineup in Formula One.
Does it really?
With Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon are both 6'1".
That has got to be, when we do our driver pairings, that pairing has got to be awful. And it's all because of Ocon.
Yeah, I don't know. But what I find that interesting is I remember Ocon doing an interview talking about the cockpit in Alpine and how because of the size difference between him and Pierre that they had to make some compromises in the cockpit. So his elbows would always hit because it was so small. Well, now that they're both 6'1", I feel like maybe now they can have a more comfortable cockpit for the two of them.
Be kind of interesting. I never knew that. I'm also not super enthused about having another British driver.
All right, so now we've got Ollie Behrman, we've got Lewis Hamilton, George Russell,
Lando
Norris.
I think it's 4.
Kind of
yeah,
Alex Albon.
Albon's pretty British. I mean, I know he races in a tie flag, but he's definitely British.
Are we missing anybody else?
Probably. Professional. 3rd season.
That's 5 of them, 4.5 of them, I guess. But yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of British representation.
Yes, it is. I'm excited for Ollie. He was fun to watch in the Ferrari. He's got a good personality. Every time they flash to his dad in the garage, he looks like he's chewing his nails. He's so nervous. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's
Looks like
hilarious.
A caring father. I'm excited to have Behrman on the track. And, historically we'd be like, sorry, you're over at Haas. But now it's like, hey, you're at Haas. You're a midfield team. Like,
at first, it didn't look like a good move, but now, I mean, congrats to Ocon. He made a good move going to Haas.
Hulkenberg, on the other hand.
Hulkenberg, man, he's got to be kicking himself so hard right now. Dude. I know he's so pissed off, but I think that Ollie is going to be a good replacement for Hulkenberg.
Yeah, I do too. So, all right, Gabriel Bortoleto.
So, Gabriel Bortoleto, the first back-to-back F3, F2 champion since Oscar Piastri. And the other two that are currently on the grid right now are George Russell and Charles Leclerc.
Yep.
So he's kind of in rarefied air. Unfortunately, he's also in a green kick Sauber. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think he's got a bright future, but not until that team gets their shit together.
And I hope it doesn't turn into a Mick Schumacher. Like, I don't know how much of his time at Haas was because the car was so hard to drive. And so he's got a ton of crashes and kind of has a smeared name because he was stepping over the line of that car, which is a very thin line, and putting it in the wall. But he was clearly a very talented driver. I don't know that he got a fair shake because that car was rough while he was there. And it's like, okay, I don't want that to happen to this guy. Like, I hope, if the car is slow, that's fine, but I hope he doesn't crash at every other race because it's so hard to drive.
You know what? If it's anything like last year's car, I don't think that they didn't crash that much. No. Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. I think the car was just slow. Like that.
And that's fine because you've got a great racer, Nico Hulkenberg, that if you're putting in comparable times or beating him, doesn't matter if you're P19, if he's P20 every time, it shows what a good driver you are.
Yeah. Yeah, so good for him. I know, he's got probably going to have a big spotlight on him just because he's Brazilian. He's the first one since Felipe Massa, probably. Yeah. Actually, Pietro Fittipaldi was the last Brazilian driver to race, but that was only for a race or two.
Yeah.
But I think either Massa or Rubens Barrichello. I think Massa stayed in longer.
Yeah.
But man, those Brazilians, we've seen, even with Colapinto, the Brazilians, like they were still coming out even for him, Brazilians and Argentinians.
Yeah. That South American blood is loyal. This should be a ton of fun.
Sao Paulo is going to be crazy next year with him on the grid.
Yeah, it will. I'm excited for that. That's already a crazy fun race. So All right.
Yeah.
Last but not least, well, last full rookie, and then we'll do Liam, I guess, is Isaac Hajar.
He's kind of interesting to me.
He is. He's a little bit.
I don't know. He had a pretty good drive last year in F2, went into the final race, separated by half a point with Bortoleto, and then kind of stalled it out on the starting line and ruined his chance at winning. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Something I just haven't clicked with him.
Yeah, it's so. Let's a couple of the facts. He's 20. He's French. He's been on the Red Bull Junior team. Done some testing and whatnot. He's going to be right next to Yuki Tsunoda, who, if I'm Yuki, I'm out for blood at this point. Yeah. And I think I'm least excited for Isaac Hajar.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel the same way.
And part of that's just Yuki, the Red Bull machine right now doesn't make it much fun.
Yeah. It's tarnished. The reputation's tarnished. It's kind of tainted. And like you said, if I'm Yuki, I don't even know how cooperative I'm going to be as a teammate at this point. Like, I am going to destroy you in every way that I can.
Yes.
Just to prove a point. And so he's got probably a tough road ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that Racing Bulls either. That's another one of those cars that's just kind of hit or miss. More often it's a miss. It's just kind of solidly, is it a midfield car? Is it a back of the pack car?
Depends on the race.
Don't really know. Exactly.
It's kind of, Red Bull as a whole is kind of tarnished. It's going to be a really interesting season for them.
Yep.
And I have a feeling they spent a lot of this season working on this year's car, because they didn't bring a whole lot of upgrades towards the end of the season. They brought some, but nothing I'm worried that car's going to come out of the gate swinging.
The Racing Bulls?
The Red Bull team in general. I bet their development curve is going to be pretty steep. So
that'd be interesting. I don't know. They got a lot of ground in the public relations department they need to make up.
Yeah, they do. A good way to make that up is start winning.
Yeah, true.
So,
all right. Speaking of Red Bull, let's move on to Red Bull proper with Liam Lawson, who got the call up over Yuki Tsunoda. Kind of not surprising there.
Yeah.
But man, Liam's got a lot of pressure, I think.
He does and he doesn't. I think that Helmut Marko actually had one of the better quotes of his time, telling him, "You do not try to compete with Max. Like, race your race. Don't worry about Max. Don't try to beat him. Don't worry about beating him. Focus on." And I wonder if he'll take that to heart. He seems like a true racer. He's going to want to win, but I don't know. It's your first season in that Red Bull. It's your kind of rookie season. Like, focus on surviving, getting points, being close to Max to be able to assist instead of being back at, P12.
Dude, I think that is the downfall that Checo Perez went through. He got a little taste in the beginning of his career and thought that he could beat Max. And I think it destroyed him once he realized he couldn't. But I mean, you look at who Lawson is replacing. He's replacing Checo, who was probably the most successful teammate that Max has had. The longest running, at least.
He's definitely the longest running.
Was he 4 years? I think he got there.
3.
Well, either way, longest running. And then before that, you had Alex Albon, who lasted half a season.
Gasly season and
Gasly,
change.
which is another half a season. So I mean, that seat has not been good to anybody who's had it.
No.
So
Ricardo.
I mean, Ricardo, who was probably the most successful of Max's teammates, but didn't last as long.
He's also the earliest in Max's career.
Exactly. Max wasn't, at his prime yet. So I don't know. Lawson, like you said, as long as he goes in, not trying to beat him. I think Marco also came out and said that they expect him to be roughly 0.3 away from Max.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you start quantifying it like that again starts turning up the pressure. You're looking like, I was half a second behind him here. I don't know, man. I don't know if I don't think he's going to do much better than Perez, which granted it's his first year. So maybe he doesn't need to. Perez scored 152 points last year. So I think if he does anywhere near that, I think that's probably a win for him.
Yeah.
But he's going to be expected to pick that up pretty shortly thereafter.
No, I totally agree. Definitely a lot of pressure imposed on him. And we've talked about the Red Bull pressure cooker a ton. And it kind of gets interesting, like because of that pressure cooker, you get Vettels, you get Verstappens, but at the same time, you eat Ricardo, Gasly, Albon, Checo, and so at this time, it's like I almost want to be like, okay, turn the pressure cooker off. You have Max Verstappen. Let this other kid learn. Give him 3-4 seasons of, hey, it's okay. Be close to Max. You don't need to be winning, right? Like, let him learn and grow, kind of like Mercedes has done with George Russell.
Yeah.
Time to turn the pressure cooker off. Otherwise, you're going to keep eating drivers.
And I don't think they can afford to do that because if Max, we had another podcast, we talked about it. If Max leaves, then what do?
Yeah.
If they just keep destroying drivers instead of nurturing and developing these drivers, they're going to be left with nothing. And
you don't necessarily, look at Ferrari, and not to downplay Leclerc or Sainz. They're both phenomenal drivers, not in the fastest car, but just being in 3rd and 4th place every time at the end of the year, they're fighting for the Constructors' Championship. You don't need Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton in that car, but you could do a lot with 2 good drivers. So stop eating them, please.
I definitely agree. But you know what the issue I think is I think that the infighting in Red Bull between the Horner camp and the Marco camp, and you got Verstappen's in there.
Yeah.
I think until that quiets down, there's always going to be this push and pull. By all accounts, I think that Liam Lawson is kind of Horner's guy. He's bringing him up, but then you got Isaac Hadjar, who's kind of on the Marco side. And it's until that stops happening, I don't think that team is going to
me, that's a
calm down
leadership
and hit
thing.
this.
Exactly. That's a total,
sure.
If we were talking about football and we we're like the offensive coordinator and the head coach don't get along, well, then the head coach needs to do something about it. That's not an excuse. That is bad leadership.
Exactly. And look at what the bad leadership has done to Alpine, who was kind of on the rise. And then once we saw all that taking place. Exactly. So, and now unfortunately, it's happening to one of the most high profile teams. And so we'll see. Maybe this year will start off a lot quieter. Hopefully this year will start off a lot quieter.
No Horn Dog Files this year.
No. Christian Horner. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyways. All right. So let's talk about, we've talked about the rookies and everybody who's here. Let's talk about who we think kind of is going to be the best performing this year. And it's hard to quantify because, certain cars are obviously going to be faster than other cars. So I think let's kind of do it on a curve.
Yeah.
As far as, taking
performance relative to their teammates.
Exactly.
That's hard. I like looking at it live, kind of unprepared. My immediate thoughts go to Antonelli and Bierman. Really. They're the ones with the most experience. We could maybe throw Bortoletto in there, but just being on the Sauber team, it's like, I know we're grading on a curve, but I don't know the curve is that steep. So,
that's a hard one to overcome. I was thinking the same thing.
Jack, I'm not holding my breath for. We've already said Isaac Hadjar. I'm not holding my breath for, and Liam Lawson. I just hope he survives. So kind of.
I don't know. So I know I've got my top 3, I think.
Okay. What do you got?
On a curve, car performance, taken into account. I think that Ollie Behrman is going to get in that car and perform. Like I said, he seems to be cool under pressure.
Yep.
I think he's in a solid enough car. I think he's going to get in there, and I think Ollie Behrman comparatively is probably going to do the best, followed very closely by Kimi and then Lawson.
I agree with that. I think I want to put Kimi ahead of Ollie. Part of that's the car. Part of that's a little bit of the culture of being with Mercedes. But he's only 18. He is young. Behrman's a little bit older. He's 20. He's got more races under his belt. In those races at a place like Jeddah, he was, like we said, cool as a cucumber. I think he's got, he's partnered up with Hülkenberg. Can't really ask for a better teammate, in my opinion.
Wait, who?
I'm sorry. He's pulled. No, I'm thinking Hülkenberg moved to Sauber. You're right. He's paired up with Ocon, who's the worst teammate you can possibly have. With all of that back and forth, I kind of want to root for Kimi. I like Mercedes. I just don't. I'm not a big George Russell fan. Man, I don't know. It's tough.
I'll say the only reason I didn't go with Kimi is because we haven't got to see him racing in a Formula One car. We've got very short practice sessions.
Didn't he race in Monza?
No, he crashed in practice in Monza.
Can't get shit straight. I'm not used to everyone being in different cars yet.
I know, man. That's going to be so hard. You're looking like, wait a second. The biggest shock is definitely going to be Lewis. Like when we see him come out in that red jumpsuit, that's to me is going to be like, that's a shocker.
And then you're going to see Carlos over there, eyes down in his Williams, just slightly defeated.
Williams started posting recently the Carlos Sainz doing his first test, and it was strange to see. It was like seeing the 55 on the side and the Carlos Sainz on his visor, but he's wearing all white.
I'm curious, we've all been talking about Alex Albon and how well he's been doing at Williams, and then Franco Colapinto kind of gave him a run there for a couple of races, and then Franco kind of dropped off a little bit. But then we get to postseason testing, and Carlos beats both Franco and Albon's times out of the gate in a car he's unfamiliar with. It's like, ooh, I wonder if Albon's been looking good compared to company, and now he's got some more serious company.
Yeah, he's like the popular kid at his small high school, and then he goes to like the big school and he's getting picked on. Yeah, but I think honestly, Carlos Sainz, I think, is probably one of the highest rated drivers on the grid right now. And I think that if other teams had openings, they would have been chomping at the bit. And, I've been hearing a lot about why Red Bull didn't go with him. Apparently, I think it was Marco really wanted him, but then Horner kind of put his foot down. But yeah,
I saw some rumors that Max was a little bit against it as well. I don't know how much water I'd put into that, but I think Max likes being the favorite and probably didn't want a whole lot of competition on who's number one.
Yep, maybe. Unfortunately, we'll never know now.
Yeah. So I'm excited. We have 5.5 rookies on the grid, man. I think this season, I think, is going to be bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah, this season for sure is going to be awesome. And I think that it's exciting to see even not just so much the rookies, but the other drivers that have displaced. Like we were just talking about Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Nico Hulkenberg, Ocon. I mean, who else?
The whole lineup is different. I mean,
the grid is, and I think what's so exciting about that is last year there was no changes. I think going
one of
into
the first
year.
years like ever, there was no change.
It was boring. You're like, what is happening? But now it's so exciting. And then after 25 going into the new regulations, there's so much
and
to be
an 11th team on the grid, new regs.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, Formula One, I think, is about to hit some new highs.
It is, man. I'm definitely pumped for this season. All right. Well, I don't have anything left on this one. Do you?
I need to apparently get more comfortable with what drivers are in what cars. I can't even figure it out anymore.
I need to have a printout just right behind me. Like get big cardboard cutouts of each driver in their new suits.
Oh, man. And we've got a new, I'm excited for the livery release. They're all doing it together this year.
Yes. February 25th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that, right around there.
Something like that. And then, so we'll have the livery, the big event, which is awesome. I wish I could have got tickets for that. And then right after that, we have, I think, 9 more Sundays left until lights out. So I'm pumped. It's finally kind of getting down. Drive to Survive March 7th is coming out, which I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this season of Drive to Survive.
I might actually watch this one.
The Ferrari drama, the Daniel Ricciardo drama, all of it. I'm so pumped for this season of Drive to Survive.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right. Well, I guess we'll be back. We got to do our driver team lineup rankings like we always do. And then as we get closer to the season,
we'll be back for
our predictions. Yep.
Predictions.
So we'll be back for that. But I think that's going to be it for this one, Dylan. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, Formula_America. Check us out on YouTube too. We've been posting there as well. Formula America podcast on YouTube. And other than that, wait a second. How are we supposed to end this?
You see, we got to knock some rust off. On that note, stay classy, America.
We'll see you next time. Jesus.